So hi, and welcome to this episode of our Communicating Science series. So last time we ended up being a bit too long, so we cut the episode in two, and this is then the second part, which will then be all about the abstract.
Exactly. We will share with you our knowledge and insights in how you can improve your abstract. And you will basically get the second half of the video. Now, this is our intro and to the second part of the last video.
Exactly. So enjoy.
Enjoy. Yes.
So I think then that covers the title part, and we should probably then move on to the abstract. So yes, the title is important, but the abstract may actually be even more important because it determines the fate of your article in many ways. So the first thing that happens when we receive a manuscript is that of course we screen it and we do all of these things, but then of course we will send it to the editors, and the editors will take a look, and basically the first thing that they will read is the abstract, and in some cases I think that they will actually make a decision based on the abstract. Is this a topic that is interesting? Does it fit our scope? So there's a lot of things riding on your abstract. So people should really spend some time on constructing a nice and good abstract. That is really something that I can't stress enough. Being on the other side of things in the editorial office, I think that I've read a lot of papers, and I think people sometimes do not pay enough attention to this part.
And there is not a question if you want to be reviewed or not when you submit your article. You want to, so it's a clear yes. So yes. Try to do and put effort into the abstract so you get the higher chance to be reviewed. And of course you can be rejected afterwards anyways, but at least your chances will be just higher.
Yeah, and it's basically like the first encounter. So it's the first thing that you present to someone. So
this card.
And then if you then get reviewed and you get accepted and you get published, then your abstract will in many cases also determine if you will be read or not. So that's the second part, why the abstract is so important. Because a lot of places will just index the abstract. You are not entitled to read the full manuscript. Not all articles are open access. A lot of them are still behind a paywall. And if you don't have an institute that pays for this, or part of like some other, I don't know. If you don't have access, basically, you will be able to read the abstract and then determine if you're going to pay for this or not.
And again, you want that. So you better put extra effort for that.
Exactly. Okay, so how do you do this? Yeah. Nice. So I sat down and I was like, okay, I have to come up with a few tips and tricks on how to do this. And I read, and basically this is what I felt like. It was so many things that was like, it needs to be simple. It needs to be direct. It has to be specific and clear and self-sufficient and balanced and not misleading and scholarly. There were so many words. And I was like, oh my God, I was overwhelmed.
Imagine that would be a title. That would be a horrible title.
Yes. There was, everywhere I looked, there was all of these like words, buzzwords that you have to do and you have to include it. And it's like, oh, but this is too hard. So I think what you should do is you should not just look at all of these like really specific words. You should break it down. And you should start once again with asking yourself a few questions. So start by telling yourself what is known, and then write a small, short introduction about the topic and the current status of the research field. And once again, here you have to have sort of an idea of who your audience is. Do they know? What do they know? Is it, do you need to be broad, or can you be quite specific about the knowledge of the current knowledge of the research field? And once you have done that, then you should state what you studied and why. So present the knowledge gap, basically, because that's what we're trying to do when we do research. It's to close the knowledge gap. So we know some things, but then there's something that is unknown that we want to find out. And you should clearly state that so people know what you're trying to do.
Because also that will clearly establish you as an expert in what you're doing. If you very clearly say, okay, this is what's known, this is what I do, and I will try this to fill this little knowledge gap, people will know, okay, you really know what you're talking about, and that will give you credit again, because you're able to phrase it that clearly and to the point.
Yes. And then the next thing is to explain what you did. And this is sort of a short version of the material and methods. So you should state what kind of what kind of plant you used if you're in plant science, what methods did you use to achieve this, but you should be short and not too specific.
But there's also the option, if you publish a method paper, then you can be a little bit more specific and point out also in the beginning, okay, this is what's done and this is how it's done, this is the lag, and this is why we developed that method. And then you can play around a little bit and give yourself some freedom. Okay, maybe I use 2 or 3 sentences when it comes to what did we do and how, because it's a method development paper. So then you have a little bit of wiggle space, basically.
Yes. And once again, you should really read the instructions for the authors, because some journals have very specific instructions for the abstract. And certain types of papers can also have special requirements for the abstract, like, for instance, a resource paper or so. So once you've done that, you should tell people what you've found. So basically a short summary of the key results. And once again, I mean, you should try and boil it down to the specific, not just give different, like this was up and this was down. And so try and sort of focus it on the important things and in the frame of what you were trying to conclude, or the knowledge gap again, to see, did this actually close the gap? But here I also, when I was reading, some people say that you shouldn't give away the whole article. You should save something for the actual discussions and results section, so that you still entice people in the abstract. So if you give everything away, then people might not think that it's that important to read the whole article. And they think, it was enough to read the abstract. So that's also a point to keep in mind.
It's a really fine balance.
Yeah.
And it's tricky to know and to decide for someone else. So it's something you need to come up with, also knowing maybe, okay, it's going to be open access or not. That might also determine your choice of how much you want to put or not. So
you're right that I think that this is something that might change in the future if we go more and more towards open access so that everyone can read. Then the landscape will change, and you might end up with different guidelines for this.
Or also, if we think about that, our how do you say, concentration span or like attention span is getting shorter. So then maybe you kind of want to work with this and make sure, okay, the people at least get that knowledge, and then so it's It's like taking into consideration how the world works, how people develop society and all these things. There's different aspects that can play into a scientific article abstract. Could you, like, that's kind of really cool. I think so.
Yeah, I think that the communication side of things are changing quite quickly and rapidly. So we should adjust.
Yes.
So the last part is then to answer the thing, what did you conclude? So the importance of the results. And also, I think that I really enjoy when people put this in a bigger context, like some future perspective, like how is this important and where do we go from here, basically.
Yeah, I also like this. The other thing is that I'm also very cautious about whether people exaggerate or not, whether they say like, okay, I'm gonna basically rescue the world with working on a tiny little subunit of the protein. But because this sometimes happens generally throughout like sciences, you need to show the bigger context, but to not overdo it and stay reasonable. That's a personal preference for me, but that's again you can think about. Maybe you can extrapolate more when you write a grant application and the abstract for a grant application. How much can you do that in an article? Up to you again. Try to like balance.
But I think you're right. I mean, trying to oversell things, you will perhaps disappoint people if they then read your article and you're like, but no, you didn't solve world hunger.
Exactly. And then you might kind of lose your expert status that you maybe gained before by phrasing everything nicely. You know, they will be like, okay, it's just talking, but actually not much behind. So that's
you should stay true to and like reasonable.
Yes.
So I think this is basically the tips and tricks for the title and the abstract. And I think that what we are going to do is also to put a document on our webpage later on with some checklists for the title and for the abstract, so that people can go there and they can download them and use them if they want to.
Yes.
So do you have anything else to add?
No, I think we went through most of the things that we thought as important. And it's basically you have, well, the abstract is like a mini version of your manuscript, basically. So yeah. And you are free to like comment and tell us, maybe we forgot something that's super essential. Let us know. So we will know, and for the future. Otherwise, I think we covered it.
Yes. So for the next episode, we're going to talk about the art of storytelling. So it will cover like the entire manuscript. And I hope you will stay tuned for that one.
Yes. I hope so too. Will be nice.
So until then, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.